Okay, everybody, here we are. Zoom class, Wednesday, August 20, what is it already? 28th, 29th, wow, 28th. 2020, Rosh Hashanah is quickly approaching. Topic that I picked for tonight that seems to have drawn at least a couple of you in is a very strange topic. And I'd rather not even repeat the topic title that I gave because it may be construed the wrong way by those who don't watch the class till the end. So there are certain prayers, certain yihirasons that are said before the blowing of the shofar, possibly during blowing the shofar, after blowing shofar as people are listening to it. And in different communities, these different prayers developed differently. They were written by different hachamim. And some we don't know where they came from whatsoever or who tampered with them. And we're going to be looking at the writings first of Rabbi Abraham Hamuy. Rabbi Abraham Hamuy was a very, very colorful hacham. He was born in Halab in 1838. He passed away in 1886. So his life wasn't long at all, okay? But he traveled the world extensively. He was always looking for interesting tidbits of information. He was a tremendous hacham. He was also, based upon his writings, you could tell he was also steeped in mysticism, and not just Kabbalah in the books, but as well as Kabbalah ma'asit. He knew how to perform wonders as well. And we're going to look at this mahzor of his for Rosh Hashanah. It's called Bet Din. David should have sent you the PDF, and you have a few pages from Mahzor Bet Din in front of you. This is his mahzor, which he published in Livorno, Italy in 1857. And we're looking at the mahzor, you see, Et Sha'arei Rason, Adonai B'Kol Shofar, and different things, and all of a sudden he stops, and he writes, and you'll see on the bottom, but very bottom, last line of that first page that you have, in the original would be page 125b, or as you see in the regular numerals on the bottom, page 252. And he starts, בתוכי ישתומם ליבי בראותי בסידור נהורה השלם ודרך חיים לאשכנזים בסידור כל יעקב ושאר מחזורים ויהי רצון שבין התקיעות נמצא שם בין שמות המלאכים משרתי עליון שם ישועה שר הפנים בלתי נודע המייסד תפילה הלזו איזה איש אשר נזרקה בו רוח מינות. So he writes, all of a sudden, he goes, I'm flabbergasted. I'm stunned. I don't know how to react, he's telling you. But I see in the Sidur Nehora HaShalem, and the Sidur Derech Hayim, Sidur Kol Yaakov, all these famous Ashkenazi Sidurim and Mahzorim for Rosh Hashanah, all of a sudden I open them up, and in the Hirason, between the Tiki'ot, between the blowings of the shofar, I see among the names of the angels that are there to assist in bringing up the sounds of the shofar in our prayers, all of a sudden I see this name, Yeshua, Sar Panim, the minister of the interior. Where did he come from? Unknown, Biltino Da. And Biltino Da Hamiyaseh Filazo. We don't know who made up this prayer. But we know this is Ish Asher Nizreka Bo Ruach Minut. This is a person who was a heretic. Must be. ביום הדין הנורא בתייסב בני האלוהים להביא גם השטן בתוכם. We're here in Yom HaDin, the day of judgment, and all of a sudden we're bringing up the Satan among us. called the Satan, the devil, the demon, the arch enemy. Okay? But all of a sudden, why would we want to involve such a, being? והנה לעניין מסיעות המלאכים, עיין הרב הגדול מהרי מקנדיה, מסרב לחוכמה, דף כ"ט באורך. So if you want to see about the different malachim, you can look at the Rabbi, I don't know what his first name is Yisshaq or Yaakov from Candia, in his book Misaref LaChokhmah, and you could read about it over there. ולעניין שמות המלאכים, עיין בפרק כ"ד בירושלמי, ראש השנה, בתוספות, דף כ"ה, ירושלמי, דזן, okay, and you can see all over there, ופרק כ"ד השבת, מסכת סוטה. And so he's telling, we know from the Gemara, from all different places, we know about Malachim, we know Malachim exist, we know of names of Malachim, we know about the jobs, if you will, the purposes of the Malachim. Okay, Masechet Sota, Masechet Berachot, Masechet Hagiga, Daf Yud Gimel, V'Yud Zayin, Masechet Ta'anit, Abodah, Derbinatan, Perik Yud Gimel, Megillah, Amukol, Fan Kebuzayin. Rav Zara Kadosh tells us about Malachim, Toledo, Vayera, Shemot, Bo, Vayikra, Midrash Rabbah. He's giving you all different sources. So if you want to go learn about Malachim, you can go check them all out. I'm just running through the different sources quickly. Midrash Rabbah, Parashat Bereshit, Yud Bev, Yud Gimel, Vayirak, Vayesheb, Vayeshlach, Kedoshi, Vayikra, Sav, Naso, אמור, שיר השירים, על הפסוק היושב בגנים, נחלת בנימין, דוד, בראשית זוהר החדש, and he's going through all of them. Every source he could think of, he brings up Sionei Daf Galanti, Besikta Rabbata, etc., etc. He keeps going on and on and on. Okay? And if you go down a couple of more lines, if you'll see, maybe midway through the page, I don't even know where to stop. He's going through all these things. The Hamway keeps going. I should have marked it on the page beforehand. I'm sorry, because I went through this earlier. Okay, so if you go down, you'll see there's one word that starts the line that says Ba Vilaha Aruch. Okay, I think it's about 20 lines, right? Vilaha Aruch. זוהר הקדוש ובתיקונים סמניון וכדומה ואשר החכמים הגידו שיש 70 שמות. Okay, the Hachemim told us there are 70 names. Metatron Sarapanim. Okay, and this minister of the interior has 70 different names. Ayim Masechet Tosafot Dehulim B'Shem Pesikta והנה בספרי קבלה שלפנינו ספר מנוחה וספר רזיאל המלאך, הריקנטי, החיה, שפעתל, גינת אגוז, באורי אור ויעיר נתיב, קנה חוכמה, ספר יסירה ופירושו לרעבד, הסיוני, ילקוט חדש, מלכות ראש אדונו, סודר רזה, כנפי יונה, המלאה, ישרה זו קדוש, תיקונים. He keeps going on more and more to show all the sources for all the names. שער השמות, שער השערים, הפרדס, עץ חיים, מבוא שערים, El Niño, so Shemot Rahamaz, Kitibat Yad, which was recently published, by the way. Sefer Shosheh Shemot, Kitab Yad, Lehad Mekamaya, Be'obe Tunis. Bishar Sefarim Kitab Yad, Bate Osre Sefarim, Sheba'are, Europa. He went to the different libraries throughout Europe to see the different books, manuscript books on Kabbalah, on the, on the Chokhmah. Okay? Francia, Austria, Hungary, Italia. He went all over. He traveled, like I said. ובפרט בעיר הגדולה פרינצי, okay, in Italy. נמצא שם ספרי קבלה, כתיבת יד, ספר הבהיר, ספר קבלה מעשית. פירוש המרכבה, ספר דניאל, כאשר מעיין בספרי הקטן לראש אלוהים, שעה י"ב פרק ג' ובקונטרסי הקטן נהר דעה, אם יעשה השם באורך. ושם עשר נבזה הזה למצא כי מיכאל שר הפנים עיין מסכת מנחות. אוקיי, מטטרון שר הפנים, אמר בי ישמעאל, סח לי מטטרון שר הפנים. סחסיה כהן הגדול שר הפנים, עיין סיוני, סיוניסו, חסשה שר הפנים. They're naming all the different שר הפנים. עיין מדהל. I know this is getting boring, you don't know where I'm going with it, but don't worry. ומה שכתב אבן ספיר. Now here he starts. This is where we start getting interesting. ומה שכתב אבן ספיר, Ibn Sapir, as Andrew well knows, okay, very, very famous rabbi and traveler. And among his travels, he even took a separate trip after all his other trips to Yemen. And he wrote about everything that he saw over there. Ra'a Sham.
And he came to Australia in the 1850s.
Yes, exactly. Why he went to Australia, we don't know. Maybe he wanted to meet a kangaroo. In any case, Ra'a Sham Sifre Kabbalah. He saw there in Yemen books of Kabbalah. Bisham Katub Yeshua ben Miriam. You understand who that is? Jesus, son of Mary. Okay. All of a sudden, he stops down. Rabbi Hamuy. Velo shalafti, velo shaqatti, velo nahti. He goes, I couldn't take it. I couldn't rest. I couldn't waste a second. I couldn't be quiet. I couldn't control myself anymore. He picked himself up. He got on a boat and went to Yemen. Now, this is no easy feat to be traveling, 170 or so years ago. If this book was published in 1857, let's say he traveled in 1850. Okay? I don't get it. But he couldn't. He was unhappy. He went to Yemen to find out what's going on. Vehu ki yadua all hagalut hamar hazem sa'al lesar hodechim. Because we know how bitter our galut is, and we keep getting bounced around, traveling from place to place. وما مكيدم كدميتها بعد هاليوم شام مقيم ومعونيم. And it's well known over there in Yemen from ancient days that those Jews there are constantly being hit, in other words, physically, and they are being caused a lot of suffering. Mirisha'at, top of the next page, Mirisha'at haguyim hahem b'nei Yishmael goy az panim b'nei zinunim. From these evil Muslims. Dorot hakadmonim mas'u terufa. Listen to this. The earlier generations found a cure. Lilmod chokhmat hakishuf. They learned witchcraft. Lehasil asmam. To save themselves. With hasil ahirim. And to save others. Da'al pi din share. Because according to halakha, that is mutar. Kemo shekatabti bekunturisi hakatan bayeshev Abraham. Rabbi Abraham Hamuy wrote many, many books. Before he mentioned two of his books that he wrote, one that he wrote was already published, and one that he wrote that he was hoping to finish. And he wrote over here, I wrote another book called Bayeshev Abraham. Oh, and I wrote about witchcraft over there and how to do witchcraft, he's telling you. وبحكمه هاللازو نمسا شام هقتاروت بهشبعوت. Over there you find all different types of incantations and different types of swears. Basically, through this, you can basically call down different types of angels and instruct them what to do, and they basically have to do what you want. Jason has a question. Jason, shoot, go ahead.
Sounds like Abodah Zara to me.
I know what it sounds like to you.
It's like in the vidui that we say on Kippur, there's like all these things about witchcraft and whatever. Even straight from Shat of the Torah, you're not allowed to make these incantations and stuff.
Okay, so let's briefly touch on what you're saying. There's a lot of different aspects as to what is Abodah Zara and what isn't. But since you're talking about the vidui, I'm assuming you're talking about the vidui hagadol that you see in the Syrian mahzorim. Is that what you're referring to? Good.
Yes.
This Rabbi Abraham Hamuy is probably the one who wrote it. Okay? Just so you know that.
I had a feeling I was stepping into something.
Yeah. So that's an upcoming class. Hopefully we'll have a chance to get to. But a lot of the evidence points to him being the author. Okay? Some of it being based on the Hidah, but the way we know it probably came from him. Like I said, he was a very interesting character, very steeped in everything. There was nothing his hand wasn't involved in. In any case, he's telling you what they were doing there in Yemen. That was the only way for them to save themselves. They had to use some sort of sorcery and witchcraft to save themselves. And that's why it's al-pi had-din shari. According to halakha, it is mutar, because it's for hasalat nefashot, to save lives.
Did it work?
Yeah, obviously we still have Yemenite Jews till today, so yeah, it worked. It definitely worked. But let's continue. Let's see what he has to say. Very interesting. And he tells you now, L'habir, we're on the fourth line, second word. L'habir hashedim ubshedim asmam yesh mehem Yehudim venosrim veyishme'anim. Okay? So now you're able to befriend these shedim, and among the shedim, you have Jewish shedim, you have Christian shedim, and you have Muslim shedim. Obviously, this is things that we can't comprehend. והשבעותיהם משונות זו מזו, כל אחד משביעו בשם נביאו ודתו. And the way to cause these shedim to swear is different for each and every one, and each one needs to be done based upon their particular prophet and their religion. LeYehudi b'shem Moshe ben Amram, right? For a Jew, Jewish shed, they would use the name Moshe ben Amram. Mosseri, and for a Christian one, in the name of Yeshua ben Miriam. Vechule. ואלו ההשפעות כתובים בספר השמות שיש בידם. And these type of swears are written in manuscript form in certain books that they have. Obviously, there were certain hachamim that, had this chokhmah and knew what to do with it. ושאר למראה אבן ספיר על שהטיל מום בקודשים והוציא לעז עליהם. Because until I got there and I saw what's going on, and I realized that Ibn Sapir didn't know what he was doing and what he was talking about. They didn't have holy books talking about a mal'ach called Yeshua ben Miriam. Rather, it was one of these books of incantations that they would use from time to time if they had to save themselves, that his name is written over there. But not that he's somebody good. Rather, it is his name being used for a Christian shed, Christian demon. אפשר אחזוהו השבש בעתהי ולא ראה בעיני השכל. It could be that he was involved at that time when he was there. Something was going on, and he heard the name being called out, and he didn't even actually see the book it was being called out from, or what the entire incantation was about. ולא שט ליבו לזאת, and he didn't really put his heart into it to find out what's going on. האומנם זאת אגיד, but let me say this, שבשנת התקו ליסירה, okay, in the year 1666, well, not literally יסירה, Liyosra, okay, of 1666, their 1666 in their case. Hataku for us, but 1666 for them. Yaso Yasa Hannabal Izmirli, Mi'id Izmir. Okay, how this, we'll call him how we were trained a Nabal.
Scoundrel?
Low life.
They all fit, but I don't think either one is the right translation for the word.
Cursed. Cursed.
Cursed. Okay.
I would have thought, yeah, low life, a menuval.
In any case, we all got the idea. Okay. A undesired individual, okay, from the city of Izmir, known as the cursed Shabbetai Sebi Yemach Shemo V'Zichro. Hir'ish Ta'olam. Okay? He brought a lot of rumbling to the world. Ve'eminu Gedolei Ashkenaz, and the greatest Rabbanim of Ashkenaz believed, from Vilna to Poland, and to the greatest rabbis of Sepharad, from Adrianople and Constantinople and Berusa and Saloniki, all the great Hachamim and all the great Rabbanim of Ashkenaz and Sepharad, they all believed him in. Okay, he fooled them all. He mixed up everything, good and evil, secular, profane, holy, mixed it all up. And then we read from all the earlier Hachamim that were at that time and immediately post that time what they have written about what was going on. V'chol halomotav, v'chol debarav, Yehudim, v'kavvanot, v'gematriot, v'sirufim, al shemo hara al zeder kokes elamu. And he found a way to mix everything up with his name. Some way, somehow, he tried to get his name, Shabbetai Sebi, to get his name involved in everything, whether it was Kabbalah, or Gematria, or Hiddushim, or Kavvanot, or Sirufim. He tried to get his name mixed up in things and inserted some way, somehow. Okay. כאשר נמצא איתי כתיבותיו וחתימת ידו הטמאה וכדילה. He goes, I even have his actual signature and actual manuscripts from this evil, impure individual. Like I said, Rabbi Hamui was a collector, and he was a traveler, and he was an investigator. ובכללם, בסעדותה תניינה, כי הוא מושיע ויושע לישראל, because he saw himself as the savior, and Vayosha, okay? He was Vayosha himself, and Vayesha, the Israel. V'nikud al tevat Vayesha, u'bigeleo tov Vayesha am Hashem imdal otiyot gematria shas denotrikon shabbetai sebi yemach shemo v'zichro. If you take this word of Vayosha or Vayesha, you spell it Vav, Yod, Shin, Ayin, and you add that it's 4 letters, it equals 390. 390 being the Rashi Tevot of Shabbetai Sebi. Gematria Shabbetai Sebi. Denotrikon Shabbetai Sebi, Yachshemo Zechro, Ve'ulai. And it's possible, Ba'atakat HaKetibot Ta'ah HaSofer Ve'katab Yeshu'a. And it could be when one of the scribes was copying something over and writing it, instead of writing Vayosha or Vayesha, he wrote Yeshu'a. He just scrambled the letters. Ve'ahad min ha'ma'aminim bo kab'a b'tfillato. And one of those people who believed in Shabbetai Sebi took this name and he said it within his prayer, within his particular Yirason. ובהמשך הזמן דפסוהו. And as time progressed, this went to the printers, to the publishers, and they published it, they printed it.
Didn't it say in the Siddur that is Yeshua ben Miriam?
Yeshua ben Miriam is what is written in the Kabbalah of the Yemenites when they're calling in what is called a shed, that's a Christian shed. But
Right.
in the Yehirason that he found in the Ashkenazi Sidurim does not mention anything about Ben Miriam.
Got it. Okay.
Joey, can I just, as an aside,
Yes,
I know
please.
I know that in the Ribono Shel Olam that is said, that is contained at least in the Livorno mahzorim, and I suspect most mahzorim, there's a Ribono Shel Olam before taking out the Sefer Torah on Shavuot.
We
And
are
it's
aware of it.
Yeah, and it's got the words Ateret Sevi, and there's a debate as to whether or not it's a reference to Shabbatai Sevi.
Yes, we've had
Yeah.
class on this in the past, and we've discussed it, and we're very well aware of it, and we make sure to omit that word.
Yeah.
We say the way we say it now is Vaharim Ateret Tiferet.
Right, okay.
Okay, that way we omit the Sevi part.
Noted.
So yes, we're very well aware of Shabbatai creeping up in different places.
I think we have a class on that already.
We had a class on that a very long time ago, correct? Probably before we
Why
were.
wouldn't you just omit the entire Yehirat Son? Why are you replacing one word? I feel like it kind of goes into that Di Carnosa thing that we also say during the holiday.
I think it's a beautiful Yehirason. Most of these prayers are beautiful. Even saying the word Sibi is probably not problematic, but just in case it was meant to be a reference to Shabbatai Sibi, we omit it. But if you actually said the word Sibi, it doesn't detract from the prayer and doesn't automatically put you in cahoots with him.
Yeah, but it's like you're saying a prayer that was created by an individual that.
But we don't know that. We don't know that, and most probably it was not.
Okay.
See, what you're saying, Jason, is that. So this particular, let me give you some background. This particular prayer comes from a anonymous work called Hamdat Yamim. And there has been much speculation and much argument over the course of generations, both by Hachamim as well as academians, as to who was the author of Hamdat Yamim, and was the author of the Hamdat Yamim a Sabbatean or not. Most information that I've read on it and really looked into, it really seems that he was not. And it was something that was embraced by the majority of our Hachamim throughout the world, not just in the Ottoman Empire, not just in North Africa, but even in Europe, and the Hamdat Yamim became something that was wholeheartedly accepted. In a short span of time, it was published multiple times. In recent years, it was republished with footnotes and a lot of, we'll call it biographical work, even though, like we're saying, it's published anonymously, and that's only because the first volume, for some reason, is missing, and that's where the biographical information should have been. And the subsequent volumes obviously don't have the author's name, but it seems, based upon so many different references that different rabbis and professors have looked into it, it seems that the references point to the author being a certain Rabbi Binyamin Halevi, if I'm not mistaken, was his name. And this Binyamin Halevi was not a Sabbatean. That being the case, there's nothing wrong with saying prayers from that book. And based upon what you want to say, why omit the word and not omit the whole prayer, then we should be omitting a lot of different prayers, even if there's no reference to Shabbatai Sevi, because they're coming from this wicked author of a wicked work. And don't get me wrong, there are rabbis who took that approach and did eradicate them and did not say them. But for the most part, the accepted practice is to say it. Now, interesting, another side point. Rabbi Yosef Hayim, better known as the Ben Ish Hai, wrote his own prayers for practically every prayer that appears in the Hamdat Yamim. So does that mean that he was trying to replace the Hamdat Yamim prayers with his own? It's possible, but the funny thing is he never mentioned that any place. He never said, don't say those prayers, say mine instead, or those are no good and we should be using this instead. And according...
Sometimes some people take an approach to change things from within, to kind of kosherize whatever was there previously.
Yes, but that wasn't Rabbi Yosef Haim's style. He didn't like something. He came straight out and said it. This is what you used to do. You're not doing like this anymore. Now you're doing this. And the Ben Ish Chai is full of that. And he tells you, I changed the custom, I changed the custom, I changed the custom. You know, so you would think if that's what he wanted to do, he would do that over here as well. And it doesn't seem so, because even early informants from Baghdad, who were his students or his students' students, said, no, in the synagogue we said the regular prayers. And there were some people who also said, in addition to the regular prayers, also said the additional prayers from Rabbi Yosef Hayim. So it doesn't look like he came to replace them, but it's very interesting that he actually wrote prayers corresponding to almost every prayer in the Hamdat Yamim. So since you want to talk about eradicating prayers, Rabbi Moshe Tawil, who was the chief rabbi of Halab, say we're talking approximately the 1940s, 1950s, okay? He didn't like any of these prayers, and he stopped them all in Aleppo. Prior to him, they said all the prayers. He did not say them. Now, his students respected his wishes, and his students became the rabbis after him, and they also did not say those prayers. Okay? So the last generation of Jews who left Aleppo and came to the United States or to Israel, wherever they went, they did not grow up on those, on those prayers being said. Okay. Anything else, or we'll go on? Go on. Okay. אוקיי. באחד מהמינים בו קבעת בתפילתו בהמשך הזמן דפסוהו, ואל תטמע, אוקיי? Don't be astonished על זה, כי נמצא כמה קמעות לגדולי אשכנז כתוב בהם צירופי שמות הבזוי שבתי סבי ימח שמו וזכרו כאשר הובאו בספרים. He goes, and don't be shocked. He goes, there are a number of amulets among the rabbis and the great people of Ashkenaz, and there are all types of combinations of names and words, that bring us each time back to this disgusting name of Shabbatai Sebi. And it's well documented, and we know it from their works. בيد حبسلت توقي يروشلايم. Goes, and there's what he called, there's a periodical called the Habaselit from Yerushalayim. He goes, go check it out over there. Numero Membet, okay, issue number 42, Chaftet Elul, Tarmab, from what he called from Elul of 1882. Okay, Penjacha Ish Elomi Shmolka Weintraub, Ish Warsaw. Okay, that's the guy, Shmolka Weintraub from Warsaw, and the whole thing over there about it. Hamura mehem, the Hashem hazeh lo nimsa velo haya b'kedvei hakodesh. Bottom line is, this name never existed among the holy writings. V'mochko v'mafshito hareze meshubbah, and the person who goes and erases it and eradicates it and removes it, hareze meshubbah. This person is praiseworthy. Ken el an yuda'ati. So it seems to me. V'hadavar masur le'ohabei ha'emet, and I hand this over to you people who love the truth. Halobshim kime'il kinat Hashem, that you also wear this coat of zealousness for God, because you want to honor our Torah kedosha, temima v'yishara, shelo yitkalkelu nitiboteh velo yit'avvatuhu derachea ki derachea derchenoam bechol nitiboteh shalom. Because you want to make sure that our Torah is never sullied, and you want to make sure that it is, dealt with in the right manner. So this is just an aside that he happened to throw in. It doesn't apply to our prayers because this doesn't appear in any of the Yirasons of the Sephardim for Tikiyat Shofar, but it's something that he saw, in the Ashkenazi books, and it bothered him tremendously. Now, you'll see there's a few more pages over there, and it bothered him so much that he actually went and started investigating. What are all the names that are used for Sarapanim? If you saw, we read earlier on in the middle of all that mess of quoting sources, that there are 70 different names for Sarapanim, for this angel that's the minister of the interior. And he went and did a study, and he added a section to this Mahzor in the very back of the book. It has nothing to do with Rosh Hashanah or Som Gedalia or Selihot or anything that would appear in the Mahzor. All about the 70 different names and how they're derived. Obviously, we're not going to sit and read it, but I just brought you the first and second page of it so you could see. And you'll see on the second page, it puts Aleph and a name, Bet and a name, Gimel and a name. You'll see that on the bottom of page 400. And he gets into all of it and tells you, how the name is derived, what is the gematria, what is the sigula, what can be done with it, what did the Hachamim do with it. Now, it's not for people that are not steeped in Kabbalah. It's definitely not for us. But it's just interesting to know how the Hachamim looked at things, and they were searching for what they wanted the emet to come out to the people. Now, granted, this is a topic that's difficult for any of us to swallow because we're not used to Kabbalah. And as Jason was saying before, some of us have been, I don't know if taught is the right word, or I think conditioned is a better word, to think that certain names of these angels may actually be Abodah Zara, or may actually be hints to demons or to gods that have flesh and blood. Whether this is true or not, I don't know, because nobody's ever been able to determine if that's a fact or not. Some people want to compare the names of certain of these angels to words in Latin, in Spanish, in Italian, and say, well, really, the Zohar, we never knew about it before, and it's possible that it was written by Spanish Jews in, the 11th century, the 12th century, 13th century, and they threw in words in Castilian into that, and that gives us a hint as to when it was really written, and what's actually going on behind it. And we never heard of Kabbalah before it started coming from Europe and from, Spanish and Italian Christians. I think all this it's definitely beyond me. I don't know enough to give a true analysis as to what's really going on. But I want to look at another teshubah on this same topic, and you should have it over there, the last 2 pages of your PDF. And this is from another interesting Hacham, Rabbi Yisshaq Barda. This Rabbi Yisshaq Barda, what makes him especially interesting is that everything about him is Rambam, and everything about him is the Ari. So now we're dealing with Rambam, all logic and reasoning, and the Ari, all Kabbalah and mysticism. And everything about this rabbi is either Rambam or the Ari, and usually he is able to intertwine the two of them and show how they are not at odds, but actually on the same page. And he's constantly coming out in his videos online, if you will, attacking the rulings of Hakam Yosef alayhi shalom and his sons, showing how they're not consistent with Harambam or the Ari. And we cannot follow them because their rulings are not in sync with Rambam and Ari. Now, this topic really shouldn't fall into either realm, but it's something that he dealt with. And if you see Siman Mem Vav, this Siman Mem Vav is from his first volume of Yishaq Yiranin. Not a very common book of Sheilot and Shuvot, but he has a lot of interesting things in it. It's just 2 pages. I want to see his approach to this same Yeshua Sarapanim, this Yeshua Minister of the Interior. תיקון בנוסח ירסון בתקיעות בנוסח אשכנז מודעה רבה לאורייתה להרים מכשול. Correction to the text of the Yirason of the Tikiot in the Ashkenaz version, and I'm making a general, announcement for the sake of Torah to remove people from stumbling. הנוסח יהי רצון שבין התקיעות השופר דמיושה בראש השנה בסידורי המחזור של אחינו האשכנזים ישמרם סורם וגואלם יש להזהיר שלא לקוראו כלל. Okay, Jason, you like this? He's saying this text of the Yehi Rason, between the blowing of the shofar when you're seated, in other words, the initial blowing of the shofar, that appears in the mahzorim of our brothers the Ashkenazim, we have to be warned not to recite it at all. Kevan shesham yesh irbub bekavvanot umuzkar sham Yeshua sar hapanim. It was because there's something very, very mixed up over there in the kavanot, and it actually mentions Yeshua sar hapanim. ורעדה חזתני בראותי איך הכניסו חלילה סלם להיכל. He goes, and I'm all shook up when I saw, how could it be that they took this idol and they put it into the heichal? וכידוע ליודעי חן, and it is known to those people who know חוכמת נסתר, okay, כמו שכתב בספר החשק, ששם מונה עין שמו של שר הפנים, and he quotes a book that mentions the 70 names of the שר הפנים, והאמת הוא שהשם, סייעתא דשמיא הוא ישעיה בגימטריה נשמה. So he's telling you there is a name, and that name that would be similar to this Yeshua would be Yeshaya. And Yeshaya, if you do the gematria, comes out to neshama, to soul. So we're talking about the number over here, 395. וראה הפלא, שבמחזור שנדפס בזלסבק, בשנת התקלה כתוב ישועה. But if you go back and you see an early Ashkenazi mahzor, published in the year 1775, it says Yeshua. ואילו בביאור שלמטה באותיות קטנות, but if you look in the explanation at the bottom of the page, כתוב והוא מעלה כרק, gematria ישעיה with 2 h's. כך שמו של שר הפנים matriton. So what it says on top of the page, Yeshua, and it says on the bottom of the page, Yeshaya, doesn't match. So obviously this is where he thinks the first printer's error occurred that brought this into play. עין רואה שטעות כזאת אינה טעות דפוס ככל הטעויות. Okay, this is not a regular printer's error, אלא המכיר בכל מחזורי התפילה שנדפסו ב-200 השנים האחרונות, יראה שבכולם נפל הטעות הסופר הזאת. Because this is a recurring mistake that you find in all of the Ashkenazi mahzorim printed in the last 200 years. ופשוט וברור לכל, so it's obviously simple and clear to all, שבעת שהונהגה הסנזורה באירופה על ספרי הקודש, ולרוב מינו בסנזור מרשיעי ברית ומומרים להכעיס, שאחד מהם הייתה ידו במעלה זה, להכניס תועבת השטן בקודש הקודשים חלילה עד שנשאלת השאלה, מה לאותו האיש הידוע בין מלאכי השרת ומי הוא זה שמינה אותו לשאת פנים במלכותה דעילה הלילה. Because obviously it's very clear. We know that the censor, there was censorship, and the censor was working hard to go through our holy books. And we know the governments of these countries would generally appoint a Jew who has basically left the fold, who's left the religion, and embraced Christianity usually, and wanted, to bring Christian ideas and Christianity into the souls of, his old fellow compatriots. And so he would go through the book, and with his evilness, he would find a way to bring something of Christianity into, the holy works. And over here, he found a way by changing a name of Yeshaya into Yeshua and calling him now one of Sarapanim. So now he's an angel. Nobody's going to look at these names of angels and pay much attention to it or know the difference. And now every Jew is going to have this holy book of Mahzor for Rosh Hashanah that he's going to be reciting and thinking about. And when people have kavanot, they really don't know what they're having kavanot on usually. And they're looking at it and they're thinking they're having kavanah. And everybody's now thinking about Jesus while they're blowing the shofar. Terrific. ואותו הרשע הסנזור סירס את אותיות השם ישעיהו והשמיט שתיים מהם ויעשה העגל הזה ישועה כשר הפנים. It's like creating, what do you call it? The golden calf. All of a sudden they're burning the gold, and let's throw something into the fire, and boom, what pops out? Here we go. I'll take a couple of letters, I'll play with them, and boom, from Yeshaya, poof, I got Yeshua. And he is now Sar HaPanim, Minister of the Interior. וודאי שכל בית ישראל השם עליהם יחיו אמן הרגישו בזיוף של המסיתים המדיחים. And obviously when this first happened, obviously all the Jews realized what was going on. אך מפני אימת המלכות והסנזורים פחדו להוריד אותו האיש מגדולתו והשאירו על כנו כסר פנים. They couldn't do anything. They were afraid of the government if they started tampering with the books. So they left him there, but they knew what it was and they ignored it. וגם בסידורים שנתפסו אחר כך, and they had to leave it alone in any other book that it popped into. וכמו שראינו לכמה מדפיסים שעשו התוכניות, חלק הדפיס ישועה בתוך סוגריים, some of them put parentheses around it, they left it there, but they marked it off, so you wouldn't. וחלק השמיטו בכלל את יהי רצון מסרט הגיורת, and some removed this יהי רצון altogether. That way it wouldn't appear in the book. או שהשמיטו את שלושת המילים ישועה שר פנים, and some of them even were able to get rid of those three words, Yeshua Sar HaPanim. והשאירו כביכול את מטיפתא דרקיעה חלילה בלי ספנים. And they actually left the heavenly court, okay, without any ministering angel. ואף על פי כן נמשך הטעות ביתר המדפיסים עד היום הזה, ושפשטה כיוון דעל על בעוונותיהם הרבים. But most people didn't know the difference. Most printers and publishers didn't know the difference. And as time went on, people didn't know the difference. And this mistake kept reappearing and reappearing and republishing, and it's there. וראה הגאון הקדוש האדמו"ר ממונקש, רבי חיים אלעזר שפירא, בשל תשובות מנחת אלעזר, וגם בשיעורי מנחת הנספח לחלק ב' של ספרו, שהביא בשם סידורי השאלה, דפוס אמסטרדם, שנאמר ויהי רצון הנזכר ישעיהו שר הפנים. And so a rabbi who knew something was able to get a publishing of this יהי רצון in his book, saying ישעיהו שר הפנים, so it was correct. ואומנם עשה כתוב בספר החשק, ישעיהו שמו של מטרוניתה, שר הפנים. אולם, מכיוון שבסידורים שלנו נאמר ישועה שר הפנים, בשום מקום לא נמסר שזה שם של שר הפנים, אלא רק השם שכינו המסיתים להידוע, רחמנא ליצלן, ולכן שומע נפשו ירחק מהם, ואין לו אומנם לגמרי. And therefore, because you don't know what is going to appear in your book, and you don't know what people are thinking, and you don't know which book they're going to actually have in the hand, so yeah, definitely don't say it whatsoever. ויפה עשה הגאון בעל התניא שמחק לגמרי הירסון והשאיר כמה מילים בסייתם שיעלו התקילות כמו שצריך. עין עוד. So בעל התניא, who is the head of the Lubavitch movement, the first of the Lubavitcher rabbis, he removed it and just added a few lines of something to say before blowing the shofar that the blowing should go up in the proper way, without any of the hirason whatsoever. וכתב, כן אנחנו נוהגים לומר רק בקצרה בלי שמות. Because, and this is our custom to just say this abbreviated version and without any names. ואחר כך הביא בשם אביו הקדוש הגאון המפורסם בעד הלכת תשובה הגרסה שפירא שלא היה אומרם ושהועד לפניו במגידי ימי בשם הגאון חתם סופר שאמר למנוע אמירת ירסון לגמרי פני שיש תערובות. So as we see, different Ashkenazi Hachamim realize that there's a problem and they wouldn't say it whatsoever, like Rabbi Shapira and the Hatam Sofer. ובשגיאה נשתבבה כאן טעות כזאת. וגם בשבועות זכר יוסף כתב לערער ולמנוע אמירת הכתיבות ישועה עשר פנים. עולת שמואל, תשועת מאהבה ודוק. בשיר דברים, יביע עומר, even יביע עומר, חכם וליד יוסף, in a small section in his first volume of יביע עומר, okay, there's a mistake over here. It says Siman Lamed Vav Ot Yud Zayin, but it's really Ot Yud Het, because I looked it up earlier. Okay, he mentions that this word Yeshua appears there, and therefore anybody who's using any of these Ashkenazi books or has this particular Yirason should omit it completely. וכן כתב לעיר הזה בחמת זעם הגאון Rabbi Abraham Hamuy. Okay, as we just saw, Rabbi Abraham Hamuy, in anger, said you must omit it in Bet Din. וכן סיפר גם ספר Ibn Sapir. Ibn Sapir, as we mentioned before, Rabbi Yaakov Sapir, who was the traveler to Yemen, בעניין הקמאות. והנני כי יהודה ועוד קרושכו בישראל יחיד ורבים אשר אש הקנאה להשם תורתו מקרבו יקום ויודיע יפרסם העניין לכל המדפיסים מהיום והלאה. Because I'm telling you, everybody get up, call the publishers, call the printers, let everybody know to look for this and to remove it and to stop printing it. ושארית ישראל לא יעשו עוולה, and therefore you will prevent any Jewish person from falling into this pit and having a problem. וכעת ראיתי בעיתון הסופר ערב ראש שנה דשנת תשתז שואל ומשיב בנדידן. Because when I saw in the newspaper, it spoke about this as well. This is a newspaper from 1956. וכן ראיתי כעת בסידור דרך החיים בנהורה לשלם, ושם הגהד מונים רבינו ועתיד ראשנו גיסי הגאון הנאמן. So he's saying that Rabbi Meir Mazuz also brought this up, and he made a correction for people to say וישעיהו שר הפנים, כן צריך להיות, so it should be. כך ראיתי בעיתון הסופר, כמדומה לי בראש השנה תשתו, כן צריך לומר, וכן ראה בספר קדמון, והמזהיר והנזהר ירבה שלומם כנהר. So basically, if you know there is such a tragic mistake, something that's going to cause people to be thinking the wrong thing and doing the wrong thing, or praying, God forbid, to the wrong being, you have an obligation to let them know. And that's why Rabbi Barda came out with this particular teshubah back in the 1970s. And this is how Yeshua showed up into the Ashkenazi mahzorim. He's not in our mahzor, and hopefully by now he's out of the Ashkenazi mahzorim as well. And that's it. But I'd like to hear more comments about this particular topic or anything related to it. Okay, maybe not.
I wanted to say, I wanted to ask about all these prayers. When the Heichal is opened, before Tkiyat Shofar, a lot of it's Kabbalistic. Excuse my impertinence, but when the shofar is about to be blown, there are a few hundred people there, maybe more. Some are walking in the hallway. Announcements are made. The shofar is about to be blown. So I think there's a sort of dissonance with quiet in our synagogues, and so there's got to be some kind of reading. And Vaharaya, that no one paid attention to this reading for hundreds of years. And Yeshu Zara Panim, Naval was Shabbatai Tzvi, right? Mm-hmm. But Yeshu Zara Panim entered into the prayers, and no one noticed it until recently. Not recently, 1,600 years later. I mean, no one paid attention to it.
What's a rabbi?
I mean, it sounds like they kosher the whole thing. They keep trying to. I mean, they koshered it by working within the system as opposed to coming.
Excuse me. Let's backtrack for 1 second here. If we looked again, we saw that Rabbi Barda is showing us, based upon his research, the first time he found that it appears is in Hatakla. Okay, Hatakla, 1775. So it's not hundreds and hundreds of years. And he's telling you as well that when it first happened, the rabbis were aware of what it was, but they couldn't do anything about it because of the fear of the government. And it's only later on that it started to be forgotten about. But the rabbis themselves actually, based upon the different rabbis he quoted, many of them were aware of this. So it was the Hamon Am, the average Joe, who did not know about it. Now the question is, should the average Joe be saying a Yirason whatsoever or anything with Kavanot? So obviously not. Those things should only be said by the Hacham, all right, or somebody who has the knowledge to be saying such things and understand what he's saying. So it's the same problem you see on, let's leave Rosh Hashanah and Kippur aside for a second. Let's take Pesach, okay? And we have Tefillah at the Hechal, that we say on Pesach, or even better yet, on Shvi'i Shel Pesach. That's even better, Tefillah. The people shouldn't be saying it at all, in my opinion. Only the Hacham should be saying it, okay? And everybody should listen and answer Amen, at the end. Very, very simple. But see, nowadays we've made books that are easily accessible to people. We print in big, beautiful block letters. We add nikudot to everything. They even add where the sheva has to be. What do you call it? Rifuya, or what do you when we start sheva na and sheva na, so everybody could say it. So now you've taken something that should be printed in small letters without nikud for the Hacham to be saying with kavanah, and you've thrown it to the people, and everybody's reading it. They have no idea what they're saying. They're reading B'rich Shemeh. They don't know what they're saying. Let the Hacham say it. Let everybody stand there silently and answer Amen to what the Hacham is saying, because hopefully he knows what he's doing, and he generally should know and generally does know in most cases. I don't think that any rabbi that's reading a B'rich Shemeh or a Yirason that doesn't understand it. I think they all understand it, each one to his degree. So why are people just reading the Yirasons without knowing what they're saying? They can't read, they're praying and they don't know what they're saying. So there are things that are meant for the Hacham to be said and things for the Hamon Am to be said by them. So I hear where you're coming from, Rabbi. It's not that, so once you threw it into the realm of the masses, yes, the masses aren't going to know what's going on. They really aren't going to know. It's impossible for them to know. But yes, it's very possible that rabbis, when they are reading Yirason and they're seeing names of all different malachim, they don't know because they didn't study that. Same way I haven't studied it and you haven't studied it. I don't know the difference between the name of one malach to another malach. I have no idea. Here, Rabbi Hamwy is giving me the names of 70 different malachim. All of them are names for the same malach of Sarah Penim. Do I know anything about it? I have no idea. I wouldn't understand anything about it unless I really, studied it, obviously. Here, name number 53. You see on top of the page, there's Yeshaya. That's the 53rd name for Sarah Penim. What are the other names? Where do they come from? What are they about? I don't know. I admit that I don't know. And in that case, I'm not going to, do anything with it. But if it's a Yirason that has pertinence, something that makes the moment make sense, and you understand the Hebrew text, by all means, say it. Now, what you're saying is that we have this time period, as you were saying, where announcements are being made and you're trying to get to that point. You have to give something over to the people. It's very, very important. But at the same time, the Tokeya himself, the person who's going to be blowing the shofar, also needs, some time to be able to focus and to concentrate, And when he's doing that, he can't be listening to the announcements, and there has to be some sort of silence. So the question is, what are the Hamon Am doing at that moment? So, do you have a solution?
How do we translate V'la abar elahin samechna in Baruch Shemeh, which you said a lot more often?
So the way we understand it is bar elahin is a term for malachim. See, people came out against Dr. De Solapul because when he first translated the Siddur, he put it as sons of God. And people said, oh, this guy is talking about Jesus. So they automatically said Dr. De Solapul is Pasul. And they stopped using his books and they started name calling him. And this is going back obviously many, many years ago. Okay. Obviously, Dr. De Solapul did not have that intention whatsoever. He was just translating the work. Okay? So it's one thing to translate something and one thing to understand it, and again, it's something like that maybe shouldn't have been translated, He was just translating the entire Siddur. So he didn't think that people are going to look at it in the wrong way, that sons of God means this, But again, back to what should the kahal be doing when the tokeya has to say certain prayers to get himself focused? He needs a few minutes of silence. He needs to get to that point. He can't just, from reading this and singing that and the rabbi making a speech, all of a sudden, boop, can't do that. I know I can't. I know I have to. You need a couple of minutes to focus. And the Yehira song that we say definitely helps me to focus.
It's very inspiring how Rabbi Hamwy went to travel to find the editions.
Yeah.
Very amazing. It's really amazing. He's an amazing.
It is. It was dedication. Yeah, dedication. These people were anshe emet. There was something going on that didn't seem right. We have to get to the bottom of it. Let's find out what's happening. And he traveled. He traveled all over the place. And his lifespan was less than 50 years.
Wow.
Anybody else? Any comments on this?
Fascinating. Fascinating.
All right. I guess we're done for tonight. Short class.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Thank you, Joey.
Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. Jason, I hope I answered all your questions before. I tried.
You do an amazing job every time.
You throw things at me that I'm not ready for, but I have to, dig into the archives,
I make you earn your money for this class.
Yeah. 0-0.
Which mahzor did the Syrian community use then? Until they got these new ones, they used the solopul, no?
Not really, no. The mahzorim used, by most of the Sephardim, including the Turkish Sephardim. They didn't use the solopul ones. They were using the mahzorim that came from both Livorno and from Vienna.
Which had the ratzon.
Yeah, they have.
More, yeah.
Sure, absolutely.
Different nuschaot, the chida, yes.
But they're there. They're all there. Any edition, any year, I can pull it out for you. Let me know which one you want to see.
Beautiful.
All right, everybody. Have a great evening, and hopefully next Wednesday we're back on, and hopefully we'll have a better topic or a longer topic.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.